Number 1. So, this is a shorter story that my dad told me that happened when I was about 1 or so. We were living in New Mexico at that time, and we were out for a Saturday just exploring. We were going between places when my dad decided to stop the car at a local gas station to fill up. And he had left his credit card at home, so he was going to have to go into the gas station to pay. Meanwhile, all the excitement of the day was too much for me as a baby, and I mysteriously soiled my diaper, as you do. So my mom realizes what I did, grabs her diaper bag, and lays me down in the back seat of the car. She was standing outside the car changing my diaper. And then, all of a sudden, my dad comes running up to the car full speed and asks, "Are you all right?" And my mom is really confused and asks what he means. My dad then goes on to explain that when he was in the gas station, he looked out towards the car and noticed a man who was sitting in a lawn chair nearby. He noticed the man stand up and didn't think anything of it. My dad looked away for a couple seconds, and when he looked back, he saw that the man had acquired a tire iron and was hunched over slightly while approaching our car with Mom and I. My mother's back was turned to the man and to the gas station, and so she didn't see him coming. My dad said the man was about 20 feet from my mom and I before my dad ran out and yelled at the man, who promptly took off running in the opposite direction. Then my dad came to meet us at the car and saved the day. I shudder to think what that man would have done to my mom and I if my dad hadn't been paying attention. Also, the area in New Mexico we lived in was not exactly safe, and this was not the first or the last creepy or dangerous experience we had in the area. So, we moved to Colorado later that year. Number 2. I would like to apologize in advance if I have any grammatical errors and such, since I'm not really a native English speaker. And just to set the right expectations, this story will be a bit long. This all started in my 3rd year of university. I turned 18, and yes, you can be in your 3rd year at that age. We had a different educational system back then. It was just the start of the semester, and we were getting to know our new teachers. Some gave us their contact information, and some had Facebook groups set up to make information sharing easier. Everything went on normally until one of my professors, let's call him Jay for the sake of the story, he started commenting and liking my photos. Jay was one of the young professors at school. He was just taller than me by a couple of inches and had a small frame. Physically, he was not intimidating at all. It was his cleverness that intimidated the students. I didn't think much about the Facebook likes and comments, since that was normal for teachers here to do that. Then, one day, after our class, I received a text message from a random number. When I read it, it was Jay. He asked about how our class was, and I answered him. Looking back, I should have wondered and worried about how and why he had my number. Jay's subject was a foreign language we did not want to study at all. So, of course, my friends and I had a hard time during lessons and exams. And I think Jay noticed that and took advantage of it. So the next day, Jay texted me and offered to give me and my friends special classes for free on his subject. My friends and I were naive and easily agreed on it. The date was set, Saturday at 10 a.m. in a mall. And just how cliched this may sound, all my friends canceled. I know. I was already on my way when I read their messages, and I was scared to piss Jay off since he was my teacher. So I thought, I should just go and meet him. Like, what could go wrong, right? Well, a lot. Jay didn't look disappointed seeing I was alone. Then, he started teaching me in the food court, and 10 minutes into teaching, he told me he wanted to watch a movie and that he'd treat me because he felt bad for me since I was the only one who showed up. I was stupid and naive. I didn't see any red flags by then, and I nervously agreed. I felt so uncomfortable, but I went on fearing that I might piss my teacher off. Jay pulled me to the back corner of the theater and said he was used to sitting there. He acted normal when we entered, but when they dimmed the lights, he leaned near my ears and my neck and started kissing and licking it. I've always imagined what I would do in situations like this, but none of my ideas worked for me. I was frozen. I couldn't move. I wanted to scream, cry, and push him away, but my whole body would not listen to what my brain was begging it to do. He then stopped and smiled at me with a wicked smile, as if he just won something. I would never forget that disgusting grin on his face. That was the face of a predator catching his prey. When the movie ended, I went home and said nothing. I did not tell anyone because I was too ashamed. I just thought to myself, well, that's okay, and that's it. It's all over, right? Well, joke's on me. That was just the start of a very long mental, emotional, and physical abuse. Jay claimed me as his own. He would degrade me and tell me how he would destroy my life by telling everybody we had a relationship and how my friends and family would be disgusted by me. And I believed him. And for him not to do that, I should follow everything he says. He would force me to kiss him, go on dates with him, and he would touch me everywhere as he pleases. He would tell me to sleep with him, but I strongly resisted, and he would freak out and scold me in front of other people for it. But I was a virgin, and there was no way I'm giving my first time to this psycho and this maniac. I would lie to get out just to meet him, and I'd shiver every time I get a text message or call thinking it was Jay again with his demands. The list could go on, but I'll save that for another time. I felt so scared and helpless. I was on the verge of just killing myself to end everything. I was so tired of the manipulation. And one night, I felt like sleeping beside my mom. I felt safe next to her. It was 9 p.m. and my phone vibrated. It was Jay. He wanted to meet me somewhere again and told me that if I don't, he would come to my house and tell my parents. But I've had enough. I could feel my chest tighten and my body start to get warm because of the anger and helplessness raging in me. I looked into my mother's eyes and told her everything. Shaking and scared, all I could think of is how she would react, but I just couldn't help it anymore. After talking, I looked at my mom, and she had the gentlest expression I have ever seen. She hugged me, and I just started bawling my eyes out. It felt so good to finally tell someone what I was going through and how I felt. My mom didn't have to say a word to let me know that she wasn't mad at me and she was not disgusted with me. Her gentle expression changed though when she remembered Jay. She then was full of rage. She got my phone and asked me to call Jay. She screamed and told him he can come to our house and that we'll be waiting outside with a knife for him. Jay didn't say anything and my mom ended the call. We then went to my close friend's house, who is also my classmate at school. My mom and her mom were very good friends. My mom told them everything, and while our mothers discussed what to do with Jay, my friend convinced me to tell our other classmates about it. The next day, we sat with everybody in the classroom, and I was so scared on how they would judge me about it. They got upset that I didn't tell them right away, and then they felt bad that I had to endure all those months alone. While the school took their sweet time to discuss what to do with Jay, he was still allowed to report and work there daily. Yeah, I know. Sucks, right? My male classmates never left me alone though. They made shifts, making sure I always had a guy with me around campus. And if they were all there, they would make this protective circle around me, which we found funny and sweet. Unfortunately, Jay was never suspended or removed from his teaching position since the school could not find anyone to replace him. Though he was mocked and disrespected in multiple occasions by the students when the word spread around. I felt like he should have been punished more. But at least this time, I was already out his grasp, and I had the best people surrounding me while I was healing. I never believed in this saying before until I experienced it. But yes, sometimes telling the truth would set you free. Number 3. So I have 2 creepy stories for you today. But let's start with the fact that I am a 23-year-old female. I grew up in a rural area in Ontario. It was the kind of place where you never lock the doors because you know everyone in town. The all too trusting small town mentality stayed with me once I moved to a big city for university. I got an apartment in a student area with a college nearby and plenty of bars within walking distance. I lived with a guy friend, Roddy, who was a few years older than me from the same small town. I would go to bars with friends on weekends and stumble home by myself around 2 a.m. One night, on my way home, my neighbor Kyle and I met in the hallway, both headed to our own places. He was also drunk and so good looking. He said hello and invited me inside. I ended up staying the night with him. He was nice and it was a fun night, if not a little awkward. We didn't exchange numbers, and it didn't seem like we cared for anything to come. So I went home in the morning, and that was that. Fast forward 2 days later, I was asleep in my bed, and my roommate was half asleep on the couch with the TV on. He heard the sound, That might have been the door creaking open, but he ignored it in his tired state. A few minutes later, he opened his eyes to see a naked man standing in front of him, lifeless and staring into his eyes. It was Kyle. Roddy tried to talk to him and ask him what he was doing there, but he didn't respond. Roddy ran to my room and said, I think Kyle is here to see you. So I followed him out to the living room and saw a completely naked Kyle staring at us with the most serious and concentrated eyes I have ever seen. I tried to talk to him and ask him to leave, but once again, he didn't respond. Instead, he went into our kitchen and opened the fridge. He proceeded to take our butter and start smearing it all over his face and chest, saying nothing, and still with a completely serious look on his face. Roddy and I ran to my bedroom to talk about what to do. While we were in my room, Kyle walked down the dark hallway that led to us and stood in the dark right before the light of my room could reach him. And all you could see was his silhouette, and he started whispering, "Hi, hi," repeatedly. Roddy and I ended up calling the police and staying in my room until they came and took him back to his house. They said he must have been on drugs, but probably wasn't a threat. I agreed, and I didn't think he was a threat, but I didn't sleep well that night, knowing he was just a thin wall away from us in this apartment. My bonus story for you in the same apartment. We forgot to lock our doors another time. I was at work and Roddy was at home. I got a text message from him that said, "Please get home. Someone is here and I think you must know them because I don't." So I took an early lunch and came home to see what was going on. There was a man with greasy black hair, so long it nearly reached his elbows, and he was pacing back and forth in our living room. Before I even got a chance to speak to him, I realized he was not mentally present. He would alternate between screaming at the top of his lungs like he was being murdered, and then he would cry and say things like, "I can feel the pain and suffering of everyone in the world. I can hear the voices of the poor and the tormented in my brain begging me to help them. And I can stand this suffering. Nobody understands my powers and ability to know what everyone is thinking." I would chime in politely to ask, "Do you know where you are?" Or, "What is your address? I can help you get home." And then he would scream at us because this was his house and he wasn't leaving. And he wanted us to stop judging him. After about 10 minutes of him rambling and pacing, he said his address to us, which is actually the neighboring apartment where Kyle lives. I knew Kyle had a roommate that I met, John, but apparently this was their third roommate. I went to his door and knocked, and thankfully, the roommate John opened the door and came to retrieve the rambling man. Later that night, John knocked on our door and I opened it to see him holding a bottle of wine. He wanted to thank us for handling the situation well and making sure he got home. Apparently, the man had recently been in a mental hospital and left on his own accord and walked in the wrong apartment. His parents came and got him, and he is back in the hospital, safe and sound. Hi everybody, it's your creepy older sister here. Thank you so much for listening. You have no idea how I appreciate this. Since the channel is fairly new though, I would like to hear some comments or suggestions from you so that I can continuously improve my coming videos. If you want to know what the name of the channel means, you can check out the description below. If you want to send me stories to read, you can also check out my email and send it there. It's also in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so we can grow together here, and I'll definitely try my best to upload more each week. Once again, thank you very, very much. And to all the creepy experiences, bad vibes, scary people, and paranormal encounters, together we say to them, Tabi-tabi po.